Hello and welcome to the Categorically Romance podcast. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Bree.
And today we are joined by Allie, host of the Romance Ever After podcast. Allie, thank you for joining us. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Allie. And yes, I host Romance Ever After. It's a podcast where we talk about rom-coms with members of the romance book community. I talk to readers, I talk to authors, I talk to reviewers. It's just about, people who have that kind of genre romance view of the world, looking at these movies specifically from that angle. For me, I am a lifelong DC resident, which is like my pride and joy. And tomorrow's actually my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. But honestly, I'm just a dork who lives in DC and who absolutely loves everything to do with romance, whether it be books or movies or hell, just even watching people on the street. I love romance.
Well, we found an article titled 9 Elements of All Great Rom-Coms. Share with us a romantic comedy, book or movie that stood out and comes to mind for each. So the first one is...
This is your version of our icebreakers, Allie.
Two lovable leads.
All right, so thinking about this, I really love... one thing you'll find out about me is that I have a very hard time picking just one thing. So, let's see, for Two Lovable Leaves, I really loved Rosaline, which just came out this past year on Hulu, which is the retelling of Romeo and Juliet, but from the girlfriend who gets dumped at the beginning, her point of view. I really love the love interest they gave her in that because they both very much don't want to be in this situation of being arranged married, but they can't stop themselves from being drawn to each other. And then I really like Man Up. That's Simon Pegg and Lake Bell. They just play so well off of each other, and I think it's because they're both just comedians in general, but they just have a really good flow that really sells the fact of the idea that they go from liking each other to hating each other to loving each other.
All right, how about a meet cute or a not so meet cute?
So I really like I guess you could call it a meet cute in Strictly Ballroom, because it's this dorky girl stepping out of her comfort zone to ask the dance school, prince to be her partner because, he's kind of ostracized now because he wants to dance his own steps. And he's just totally dismissing her, and she just kind of forces her way into his view, which I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I stop you there and just tell you how much I appreciate that you love that movie? I feel like no one has seen that movie.
I have not. I'm jotting it down, you guys.
You have to see Strictly Ballroom. It is so good. It is so good. And the thing that never really cracked my mind until, I guess, recently is how serious they take everything. But these are literally amateurs. They all have day jobs.
Yeah.
Not a mechanic, but they all have day jobs. They're salespeople, but their world of ballroom, amateur ballroom, is so intense to them. It's so awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is just so great, and I love the just no apology of how much they work at the beginning to I guess I don't know what the term, but to just humble the female lead. She's got all of this prosthetic acne on when you first see her, but just every progressing scene, she just becomes more beautiful, and she's just gorgeous by the end.
She's a really, really lovely girl, and they try and sell it as she's trying makeup now and all this other stuff, but they really frump her down.
Uh-huh.
She's really frumpy.
Okay, guys, I got it written down. I will be watching it. That's why I was so excited about this episode.
Did you have any other Allie for meet
Um,
cutes?
so I have like a penchant for really loving like really crappy TV movies. And I have a very soft spot in my heart for like all the Harlequin adaptations. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's this one called Diamond Girl where it's two brothers who own a law firm and a vineyard, and the older brother comes back to town, and because he's there to help sell the vineyard, and he doesn't trust his reckless younger brother to do it by himself. And his paralegal, who has never seen this man before, he barges into her office and takes it over, and she is just like fit to be tied with him. And it's just the thing is, though, the actors are just like in two different movies because he's overacting
Oh
and
God.
she barely has a pulse, and I love it so much.
I am a huge made for TV movie fan, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Like sometimes it's like, who thought these two people could act together? Like one person clearly understands the assignment, and the other, and most of the time it's the female lead. I'm like, who thought she needed to be the leading lady in this movie? Like it's so awful, but it kind of adds to the charm of it being a
Yes,
made for TV movie.
I love that so much.
Okay, this one was the Diamond Girl.
Yeah, it's called Diamond Girl. I forget what their actual category is called. But like if you go on IMDb, I think the title is on there.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to look it up. We'll look it up and put
But
it in
like,
show notes.
like it's always on like Freevee for free to watch, and like it's such a comfort movie for me. I just like watching them be so ridiculous because they end up fake dating to try and convince the younger brother to sell the vineyard. It's so ridiculous.
Gotta love a fake dating. Well, name for us a rom-com that had a unique or troublesome situation.
I feel like for this one, Something New was a good
Oh,
one.
I love that movie.
Just because it's a very unique situation where it's really about her stepping out of her comfort zone to try something. And you know, there's so many different class things that you can talk about as well as racial dynamics. It's just it's a definite unique point of view, I think, because you don't always have it where, I mean, they always do the heroine who's like, you know, stuffy and, you know, afraid to like get out of her shell, but like she's the well-to-do one, and she's basically becoming more herself in a way, I guess. But it just, I don't know, I just felt like the setup for Something New is just so different than a lot of movies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, name for us one of your favorite rom-com sidekicks.
There's this really fun remake of Cinderella that's set in the world of fashion called If the Shoe Fits. It stars Jennifer Grey and Rob Lowe. And she's a shoe designer, and basically she gets these magic shoes that turns her into a fashion model.
Oh,
um, and nobody recognizes that it's her somehow. Her hair is just slicked back. That's like all it is. But like nobody recognizes it's her. And she has this buddy who is a dresser, and she's French and she's ridiculous, and I absolutely love her. And her name is Veronique.
Love it. I'm keeping a whole list here as we're going down. How about a super fun montage?
Okay,
we have to have a montage.
You have to go with 27 dresses. Like,
Oh,
all the dress, when she tries on all of her bridesmaids' dresses for him, like, how can you not?
that is a memorable montage. I love that
Yeah.
one.
And then to reuse a movie, my backup would be Diamond Girl, because of course there's a montage in it where he has to make her up from frumpy paralegal to stellar girl that the little brother can't ignore anymore. And she has the worst clothes ever.
I'm determined to find out like what book this was adapted from too. I need to know. Because made for TV movies, man, they love to adapt like romance novels. And
Mhm.
sometimes like those like I don't know if you watch Hallmarks, but like wedding, they had the Wedding Veiled series that's been like super popular lately. And it's
Mhm.
based off of like a Lori Foster novel. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with Lori Foster's book. Like she has like a half naked cowboy on the front, and I'm like, clearly this is not a Hallmark
Yeah,
movie.
they toned it down just a little. But I would say this, Diamond Doll does have a sex scene in it. So
Oh, okay.
like this is from when Hallmark was like they were really adapting their books. There's like a series of films that they did, and I'm deeply obsessed with this. So basically, and this is a little crazy story for you. Basically, what happened is in like the early '90s, CBS lost the airing rights for some football games on Sundays. So in order to try and fill that programming hole, they decided that they were going to basically produce filming and content for women. So they like did tennis for some portion of it, but one of the big things that they did was they basically worked with a Canadian production company to do all of these Harlequin movie adaptations. And so we now have like this random catalog of Harlequin movie adaptations, thanks to the NFL taking away CBS's film airing rights.
You can't praise the NFL for much, but you know, you gave
Right.
us some Harlequin movies indirectly.
Right.
So hats off.
Let's look out for the ladies on this one, guys.
How about relationship jeopardy? A moment the core relationship is put to the test.
Sometimes these can be kind of cringy in rom-coms, but like when they get it right, it's so good. So I was like, oh man, I can't wait to hear what she has to say about this one. This is tough.
Okay, so new movie that came out this past December, I really liked kind of how like their relationship is in jeopardy from basically the moment they meet. Called About Fate. And like basically from the moment they meet, they are not crazy about each other, but they get put in this situation. Because okay, so he and her are at the same restaurant at the same time with their separate significant others. She's getting dumped. He's proposing.
Oh God.
And they run, yeah, and they run into each other and they just like have an awful moment together. But then the very next day, he accidentally gets dropped off at her house, drunk and naked. And, she comes home and he's in her bed. And she's like absolutely distraught because she was supposed to be bringing her boyfriend to her sister's wedding and everybody thinks she's a flake and like, not really good at life. And so she convinces him to go and pretend that he's her boyfriend. And shenanigans ensue in the course of them getting to the wedding. But when they get to the wedding, like everything just seems like perfect for each other. And then of course, who should walk in but her ex, who he's pretending to be. And he has a fiance who he's supposed to be going to really propose to at a different venue all the way across town. So
Oh my gosh, I think I saw a preview for this recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was really fun. And it's Emma Roberts, and it's the same director writer that she's worked with on a bunch of things, including that one with the Australian guy where Holiday.
Oh, that one was on Netflix. Was that good? I have it saved. It's been saved, y'all, for like 2 years, and I've yet to watch it.
So I can see why people have like very intense reactions to it. They either love it or they hate it. There is no in between. And I can see why people would feel that way. So I would just say, you're going to have to evaluate that for yourself.
Okay. Give us the deets. Like, what are people's thoughts about the movie?
So a lot of people feel a little icky about some of the ongoings that happens between them because I believe there's a sex scene or a failed blowjob attempt.
Okay.
That some people felt like the question of consent wasn't clear, and that's important to acknowledge. But outside of that, their chemistry is wishy-washy. It's kind of wonky. Like sometimes it's like on like gangbusters, and then other times it's like you're looking at a brother and a sister. And the plot is kind of all over the place. Like in a fun way for me. But I also like trash a lot, so I can't always be the best judge.
Fair.
Anybody that's like, I like trash a lot, it's usually going to be a good time, you guys. So,
how about your most memorable light bulb moment?
Okay. Old movie, Madonna, called Who's That Girl? She's basically just gotten out of jail, and she has like basically the deets on like this crime she got sent to jail for. But basically she took the fall for it. And this uptight accountant guy who is marrying his boss's daughter that weekend, is put in charge of escorting her from the prison directly to a bus to get her out of town, and sent off and away. But of course, she doesn't want to play by the rules. And so she basically leads him off around, I can't remember if they're in New York or Philly, but she basically like leads him off around town, running all these various errands. And, they end up with a cat, not a cat, a puma at one point.
I love how ridiculous rom-coms are. Like,
Right.
it's a given in the genre of like ridiculousness, and it's so perfect.
With a puma, she steals some jewels from Bulgari. It's a whole thing. But the puma is supposed to be delivered to this like fancy rich guy who has like a rooftop garden animal sanctuary, because only in movies. And Loudon figures out that he has to go meet her there because she runs off with the puma at one point after some hoods come in and kidnap a bridal shower. Anyways, he meets her there, and the rich guy, who's eccentric as hell, has dressed her to the nines in like this gorgeous white dress, and her hair is perfect, and she's wearing this like the really pretty expensive necklace she stole earlier. And Loudon is just like, well, damn, she's crazy and a criminal and all this, but wow, like she is the girl. But of course he doesn't, follow through with that because he's a good guy. He's supposed to be getting married the next day. And so he's going to let her go. But then, well, it's romance. You know what? Stuff happens. They end up together. There's also dueling in that.
Oh, of course.
I mean, we already have a stolen puma. Like, we might as well have dueling in there as well.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so what do you guys think of Madonna on film? Like, I watched for the first time, I think early last year, Suddenly Seeking Susan, and I'm like, she was fucking gorgeous on screen.
Oh yeah. She's awesome. She was actually a pretty good actress.
Yeah. I feel like in Suddenly Seeking Susan, she was playing herself.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a point where like she goes into the club and her song is playing, but she was great, I think.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So when I was a young child and was first learning about Madonna, she was in pop culture like the most scandalous woman to like ever be. Like that's how pop culture was painting her. And you look back now and it's like, oh, she was like wearing whatever the hell she wanted, and that was pretty much just pretty much the height of it.
Yeah. The bar was in hell.
Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed. I can't think of anything that I didn't enjoy seeing her in. I know there was like a remake of like, was it From Here to Eternity or something like that? It was a remake of one of those old romance movies that kind of got panned by critics. But
Yeah, I think that was when she was still married to Guy Ritchie.
Right. Yeah, I think he directed it too. So it seemed like after Evita, she kind of did an Oscar chasing
Yeah.
bit of her career. But I really enjoyed when she was just you know, being essentially being herself, you know, on
Yeah,
film.
like she was just like frolicking around New York carrying this like little hat case and suddenly seeking Susan. And I'm like, I love you. Like she's in there's some scene of her like drying her armpits out in the like blow dryer in the bathroom. I'm like, this is so Madonna being Madonna. It's
Yeah,
perfect.
she's really funny. She
Yeah.
is really funny. And
Yeah.
so yeah, like when she went on her Oscar chase of serious oxyfilm, it wasn't as fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I will just always remember her as just the epitome of a bombshell from that Dick Tracy movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, how about your favorite grand gesture or epic line?
Oh, okay. So first one, I for grand gesture, like it's important to me that the person getting the grand gesture is not being embarrassed. And so for me, the height of height is 10 Things I Hate About You, the dancing and singing in the stadium. You're just too good to be true. Because, he's making a fool of himself on the altar of love for her, but he isn't directly embarrassing her. And that's why I love that one so much. And then Fire Island, I really liked when they're having that little debate about a book. And he's like, I'm not trying to argue with you. He's like, well, if you're not trying to argue with me, then just let me win. He said, and he just goes, okay, you win. And he smiles at him. And like when he said that, my heart melted because who doesn't want to just win like that?
Yeah.
I think you're right though. Like you don't want it to be embarrassing and you
Yeah.
want it to be something that makes sense for the person that you're doing the grand gesture for.
Yeah, and when you're doing the gesturing, like it's got to be, especially if it's going to be public. You can't embarrass the person. Like you've got to make a fool of yourself without
Yeah.
embarrassing them.
Yeah.
And that's why I hate public proposals.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
This might be a little bad because it's kind of a true one, but the in Walk the Line when Johnny Cash proposes to June Carter in front of like a whole audience of people after she's told him no several times. It's kind of like,
did you think that was going to make her say yes?
Pressure, pressure, pressure.
All right. Well, we need to talk about happy endings. Which happy couple from a rom-com do you believe would still be together?
Dre and Sydney from Brown Sugar.
Oh yeah. Okay. Talk
They
about
would
us
still be
throwback.
together. They were essentially together all that time. They just needed to make it real, and we finally made it real.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's tell us your romantic comedy film and romance novel origin story. Like, tell us about them. How'd you get into them?
Oh God. So my family is like really super huge movie watchers. We were that family with like 2 VCRs to like dupe things that we got from Blockbuster so that we could watch it.
Oh, naughty.
Children these days will never know.
They will never know.
You'll never understand the lengths we would go to.
God, that was an extremely dated statement.
It was. Tell me you were a child of the 90s without telling me you were a child of the 90s. Blockbuster alone.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're always huge movie watchers, and I watched a lot of the same movies that my mom watched. Now, my mom watched a lot of action movies, but she also watched a lot of rom-coms too. And I just kind of fell in love with watching those movies. And I'll never forget, there was this one time something was coming on. I was like, Mom, we have to watch this. And she turned to me and she goes, you are such a romantic. I didn't realize that. And like that kind of like stuck in my head, that I really liked romance. And I kind of sort of led with that. And I realized, you know, as I was also reading a lot, I realized the parts of the story that I really liked were when people liked each other and they wanted to be together. And then one day I found out that you could read whole entire books that was just about that, with lots of kissing. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to read that. And I'd say I probably didn't become like a huge romance reader until maybe about high school. And then I was basically at the bookstore 2 to 3 times a week, and the library, cleaning out every paperback I could find. And I never looked back after that.
Erin, you are a rom-com lover too. Like, how'd you get into it?
It's hard to say, but my family was big movie watchers too. But ones that probably stand out are Princess Bride, of course, because that movie is just incredible. Haven't gotten around to reading the book, but
okay, so true story confession. I really believed that the book was an abridged version, and like for a year I searched for the unabridged version.
Love it.
This is like in the heyday of the internet, so like I was down some rabbit holes.
Oh yeah. Well, and I gotta say, you mentioned action, and it made me think of True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis, and that it's like such a rom-com that I don't even think people realize, because you know it's got terrorists and you know guns and explosions and everything, but it's the core of the story is this spy, you know, realizing, you know, needing to re-show his love for his wife that's just, you know, that he's just completely forgotten about through his job.
I love that you watched that movie, Erin, and the romance part of it stuck with you. I love it. You're such a romantic.
Well, like, that's the best part of that movie. Like, I always feel like the third act is like, it's just too much. But like the part where like he's realizing his wife is being seduced by this janky car salesman and he's got to get her back. Like, that's the best part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My introduction was really, it was my, like, I guess it's safe to say we were a movie watching fam too. My parents watched a lot of horror when they were married, so we watched a lot of horror, but like my mom would watch rom-coms, and I feel like we watched a lot of Julia Roberts and a lot of J-Lo. And her favorite movie, the older I get, I realize is not really a romantic comedy. I don't know how we would categorize it. I just remember us watching My Best Friend's Wedding over and over again. We had the soundtrack, like we had the album, From the Moment I Wake Up. Like all the time. So that was my introduction. And then like in middle school, our Slumber Party movie, which is so weird now that I look back on it, because I went to a Catholic school in the Midwest. I was the only Black girl in my grade. And our Slumber Party movie was The Wood. Four Black guys, like, you know, in high school, and as a grown man, one of them's getting married. But like, we quoted the hell out of that movie. So good.
That is awesome. But how?
I don't know. It Blockbuster. I think it was we were at Blockbuster. We rented it one time and laughed our asses off. So literally every slumber party after that we're watching The Wood. I've been a fan ever since.
All right, I'm writing that one down too.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It is so funny. It's a lot of fun. Just that is a random choice.
Yeah.
I think it was actually produced by MTV too. So like.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
A crap ton of commercials for it too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, what inspired you to create and start Romance Ever After?
So I'm an extreme extrovert. So you can imagine how the pandemic was a bit much for me.
Yeah.
And I was just desperate to talk to other humans who weren't my husband. And I was like, what can I talk about? Oh, this thing that I'm deeply obsessed with. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Also, like, I was so I am a super huge stickler about the definition of what a movie is a rom-com or not. And so it was also the very Aries way of me to basically browbeat people into admitting that movies that they thought were rom-coms weren't rom-coms. So in a fun, loving way. But that's really all it was, just the need to be extroverted and talk to people about things that I love.
I love that.
Love it.
There
Okay.
was a lot of good that came from the pandemic.
Can I ask you, Allie? I've been noticing just on the internet, movie subreddits and romance subreddits, things like that, that the movie Love Actually has not aged well. And do you have anything to say on that?
I've heard that too, Aaron. I've tried to watch it. Confession. I've tried to watch it because I listen to a lot of UK podcasts and they like praise that movie. But then here in the States, I hear like, yeah, it has not aged that well. So I tried to watch it, I think on Amazon Prime. It was free once upon a time. And I got like 10 minutes in and I was like, it's not so great. And I like turned it off. So I don't know if I'm missing out on something, but yeah. What do you think about it?
Okay, so first and foremost, I have an episode that I did with Jillian Graves and Andy J. Christopher, where we basically spent 2 hours tearing it apart.
We will link that in show notes, listeners. It'll be in show notes.
But really, okay, for me, it kind of boils down to the fact that I think personally, Richard Curtis, the man who wrote the movie, doesn't really have a romantic bone in his body, but he's really funny. And the fact that he's really funny covers up the fact that his sense of romance is utter trash. Oh, speaking of grand gestures that I think are awful, the end scene in Notting Hill where he shows up to the press conference. I don't like that. Anyways, so that's kind of how I feel about Love Actually. And don't get me wrong, I watched the hell out of that movie, like so much. I owned the DVD at one point. I watched it like all the time. Deeply enjoyed it, but like when you look at it like from a standpoint of romance, it's awful.
Oh,
the
gosh.
idea that, you know, a woman won't be able to have a relationship because she's caring for her mentally ill brother who is in a nursing home. And it's like they're the only two left, and she doesn't even have a chance to get away from him to like have a one night stand with a really hot guy who likes her. Like I think that's a horrible message. Now he tries and spin and say like the love story here is her love for her brother, but like that's crap. And then the fact that the almost affair with whatchamacallit, Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson just like absolutely destroys their marriage, and she stays with him. And you like never see him make it up to her. You just know she's sad and staying with him. Like on your best friend's girl turned wife, and you just need her to know that you were deeply in love with her, but you're gonna let it go. Like why did you tell her that? That was not a Christmas gift for anybody, but you fucking up their marriage probably. Anyways, and then he's like, Richard Curtis has like this weird obsession with American women. Like I don't understand it, but like he thinks that we are like, I don't know, I guess a little bit more looser than British women, and like every American woman he puts in something is just like some sort of sexual siren, and it's just like it's really weird to me.
I love when Aaron goes into these Reddit sub threads. It's always a good time.
It's always plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like as a romantic comedy fan that the genre is having a resurgence, I guess, that its fans have been waiting for. And when looking online, you constantly come across two factors behind it. Comfort, because we've been going because of COVID, people are looking for comfort, and then streaming services. And what I was seeing a lot was like Netflix was really the streaming service that kind of kicked things off. So as a longtime rom-com fan, Allie, what do you think is behind the resurgence the genre is having? Like, do you agree with that or what? Do you feel like it's never really went anywhere? Like, what are your thoughts?
So I think if you look at it this way, if we're talking about streaming services, we're talking about like more mainstream rom-coms. Like I think rom-coms never really went anywhere. I personally think that Adam Sandler held the banner of rom-coms for a while there. When like major studios weren't backing them, Adam Sandler was still making a rom-com a year. Though I don't think a lot of people admit that, but like, just go with it. Rom-com, blended rom-com. Like he was making rom-coms. They were about parents, but he was making rom-coms.
And that's definitely a name that you really don't hear people say when we talk about rom-coms, but give him his props.
Yeah. I mean, Wedding Singer still holds to this day, and it's a pitch perfect rom-com. Like everything about it. Like is Adam Sandler what we think of when we think about romance, heartthrobs? No, but he is an incredibly believable romantic lead, and he can be really sweet and soft in those movies.
Yeah.
Even though, he's like the king of like, angry man comedy, like and raunchy comedy. Like it's not all Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, y'all. But like even in those movies, he's got like nice little romance subplots,
Yeah.
Adam Sandler does romance well, and I think we should give him his props. But back to your question, really what I think is the key to this resurgence is actually Hallmark. Hallmark found its niche in doing TV rom-coms. Now, are they necessarily how we always think of rom-coms? No, and because of the basically factory they've got going now, they have like expanded a little bit more in how we view rom-coms and how they produce rom-coms. But because Hallmark was pushing for that, and other networks hopped on board like Lifetime and Ion and like everybody coming out of the woodwork for those holiday rom-coms, a lot of production companies, smaller production companies, started pivoting towards doing that. And there's money to be had in that. And I think when we really saw like at the heyday of Hallmark, like doing this, streamers, of course, like Netflix and other people were pitching that to these guys that, hey, look at this formula, this format. Let's start doing it. Now with Netflix, I would say like the bigger thing in them doing these rom-coms more, it's been more about pulling in female viewers. And that's big for them because, you want to hold on to subscribers, and women typically drive subscribing to those services. So you want to do some programming that's for them. Why do you think we get so many documentaries on like killers and true crime and all that stuff? Like, they're trying to draw in the subscription base. So they kind of saw what Hallmark was doing, and Hallmark was thriving with that. And people were already, out in LA passing off scripts, and in Canada passing off scripts for these rom-coms. And so they just elevated that a little bit by also adapting some books too, which has been a lot of fun, I think, for people. Seeing these books that they all love being brought on screen and given the care and attention that they deserve.
I think with Netflix, like, they'll have some bangers, but sometimes I think that I noticed it, especially this past holiday season. I'm a huge holiday movie watcher, and man, like there's some bad stuff that gets put out there. It's like, it's like everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, but it's like, and Lifetime. So like Lifetime, I feel like out of all of the like channel wise, like made for TV wise, I think they really brought it this past holiday season. Whereas I think they learned their lesson, because the year prior to that, they put out way too many movies that were like, they put out just way too many movies. I feel like last year it was quality over quantity. They didn't put out nearly as many movies, and really the majority of what they put out was good. And I feel like that's what everybody needs to recognize, is like, don't put out so much, and then put money into what you are putting into, and just make sure it's good. Like, just make sure it's good.
Yeah, and you know, people want to have fun with movies. You know, life is so depressing, man. Like, people want to have fun when they're watching stuff, and like that's why I think we're seeing the more fun movies that are out, people are going to actually see them, and they're actually going to go to the theater. But like for a while there, the only time you were able to get some fun was on streamers, because they were doing these kinds of movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If Netflix were to offer you a whatever it takes to make a great budget, how would you rewrite these films? The first one is Sleepless in Seattle.
Oh my God. I just want to know, did you pick movies you know I don't like?
Okay, here's the thing. So I came across this article that was like a whole article on movies that it wasn't necessarily like don't age well, but like don't portray New York at the like what New York is currently like. So it was like you know, you wouldn't be in a cab these days, you'd be in an Uber kind of thing. And I was like, let's put three from this list. So there you go.
That's fine. Okay, so Sleepless in Seattle. I feel like for that one, I hate the fact that they never communicate really. We were supposed to believe that they're going to end up together based on a couple of times that they see each other from across a crowded room, you know? Yeah. And that's not enough for me. Like, I wish like there was some epistolary in there, like they were writing to each other more after that first letter or whatever. I wish that was there, so I could just believe that when they did finally meet, even if they didn't know that they were the two who were writing each other, that it would work, you know? Yeah, that's how I feel about Sleepless in Seattle.
So how would you rewrite it? Like, would Sleepless in Seattle be the podcast of like
Ooh, that's a good question.
Like, how would Sleepless in Seattle work today? Like, it clearly worked for its time.
Yeah.
But like, honestly, like for one, I mean, I know people still listen to the radio, but like, how would you could like find him on Instagram now, you know?
No, okay. It would be, he totally hates social media, so he's never on there. But he gets caught in a TikTok.
Yes. Okay.
Oh,
okay. His son does it. His son does the TikTok.
Right, yeah.
Viral. It's all over the place.
Oh, man. You know, I haven't seen that movie in forever, but that is just such a great example of the 30-year-old child trope. In that movie.
Tom Hanks' character?
No, the actual child, like
his son. Okay,
having like this very like grown up, mature attitude and outlook on the world.
What about his little friend played with Gabby Hoffman's character? She was retired. She was like a retired teacher. The way she acted,
the way she set up his plane ticket to fly to New York. She's like, we're gonna make sure you have a window seat. Like, are you like 27? Guys, okay, I just love that we're having this conversation because I have a confession. Like, I really love that movie. And it's awful. I know it's a noble failure.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
When they hold hands at the end, I cry every time. I'm just like, finally. I guess because they spend so much time apart.
Everyone is allowed to love what they love. Just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean it doesn't work for you. Like, A-okay. It's A-okay. Like, the first conversation I ever had with Denise Williams was me telling her for an hour and a half how much I hate You've Got Mail, which she absolutely loved. It's
That was
Okay.
another movie on the list, you guys. It was like, you walk around New York. I've never been to New York, but if you like, they're like, if you walk around New York City, there's tons of buildings that are closed. Like
Yeah.
how, it's so realistic that her bookshop would be closed by a big conglomerate company in 2023.
I mean, it is, yeah. I'm gonna guess like half that list is Nora Ephron movies. So
Yeah, no, there were a lot of Noras on there. Okay. How would you rewrite How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days?
Oh, see, like I don't have to worry about that. I could just go adapt Andy's book.
Andy does have the book. But on the list, it was like because somebody worked for a magazine, right? And they're like,
Yeah, she
remember
works for
those?
magazines. So like, if it wouldn't be a magazine, it would be like she would work for like some sort of online publication, like The Cut or something like that. And I don't think it would be like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. It would be more like, I don't know, a weird retrospective on the New York dating scene and how social media has affected how we date or some BS like that.
All right, I've got to admit, I have not seen that one, and I haven't seen this next one on the list, which I get a lot of flack for not having seen this one. I know, right?
Oh my God.
Don't feel bad.
Don't feel bad.
How about When Harry Met Sally?
I just want to let you
Okay,
know,
first off, give us the tea. Why do you not like this one?
I am on record repeatedly as being an affirmed Nora Ephron hater. So like,
okay, that makes sense. Okay,
so
got
like,
it.
it's okay. I don't know.
Nora is like interesting to me because like she has all these movies that were like total hits, people loved them, and she seemed super feminist. But then like I've read some of her nonfiction and she just says stuff every now and again that you're like, I don't know how cool you actually are.
Right? I mean, she lived in DC too long. That's her problem.
Said by the lifelong DCer. Self-confessed.
Well,
Sorry.
Look, let me rephrase that. She lived in Washington too long.
Okay.
That's her problem. I mean, yeah, so When Harry Met Sally, probably it would be like Facebook would be involved somehow, clearly, because they're both weirdos. I don't know, maybe they have like a lifelong poke war on Facebook, like they're the only two people still doing that. What else would help? I mean, there would actually be people of color in the movie.
Yeah.
The rideshare thing would still be a thing. I mean, people still do that all the time, especially coming out of college. But I don't think he would have a job waiting for him. I think he would have like the possibility of a job, and he's just being like totally go-getter. He's definitely gonna go for it. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Like he's like gonna sit in the lobby until somebody hires him kind of guy.
I remember watching it for the first time a couple of years ago, and I was like you, Erin. I caught a lot of slack from friends of like, oh my gosh, you haven't watched When Harry Met Sally. So I watched it. And again, this is at this point, I would watch Sleepless in Seattle like every day. It was just comfort. So like, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll watch this other Nora Ephron movie, right? And I watched it and I was like, it's okay. I don't understand. But then I was like looking online, and I guess so like some people consider When Harry Met Sally, we had like the golden age of Hollywood, like screwball comedies. And then I guess When Harry Met Sally in some people's eyes is like the first of the more modern rom-coms, I guess. So I guess in some people's eyes, it's important as like a transition film or whatever. But yeah, I was just like, I've seen it once. I don't need to see it again. It's okay.
What it really is that it's like the first one where Gen X is like an adult, That's all it is. I think we all know how Gen X feels about themselves.
Yeah.
They tell us every day on Twitter. I think the relationship politics of it are just very different than I think what we deal with now. I don't know. I like maybe it might be a little bit more like this ridiculous house swappy movie that with Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon.
Your Place or Mine?
Yeah. I think it's like I feel like that's kind of like the same ethos, but like I don't know. I don't think it would really work as well.
Yeah. Okay.
There's this ridiculous, I guess you could call it sort of remake called Boys and Girls with Claire Forlani and Freddie Prinze Jr. And it's set with them in college, and it's basically the same movie. And that came out like in either late 90s or like super early aughts. And I think like even just that little bit of jump of time just showed how out of pocket some of the relationship dynamics were. The thing that works about When Harry Met Sally is that the dialogue is snappy, and a lot of people enjoy that. And sometimes when dialogue is fun, people miss they miss the fact that the movie isn't great.
Yeah. Oh God. It's like not Mystic Pizza, The Runaway Bride with Julia Roberts. Like, I think about that movie a lot. I'm like, the first hour was great, and then the second hour, it was just a really long movie somehow. And it's not really that good after a certain point. The first hour was great. We should have cut it after that.
Yeah.
It just kind of drags on.
You know, the thing though about Nora Ephron is both of her parents wrote rom-coms.
Yeah.
And they wrote one of my favorite movies. They wrote Desk Set. And I absolutely adore Desk Set. This is the only Ephron production that I like.
Did you ever watch Heartburn? I mean, I know it's not like a rom-com, but did you watch Heartburn?
But it's like, it's funny, but like, it's depressing to me.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it's based on her actual life.
Her actual marriage. Jack Nicholson is such a good actor as like a not shit husband.
Something tells me he takes it from life experience.
Right. And Meryl Streep is just classic Meryl Streep. It's so good. Well, okay. 5 titles, film or books included, if you want. Your romantic comedy starter pack, what would be on it?
Oh, see, this is difficult. This is so difficult for me. But I really love. Okay, so I'm gonna start with book because that's like easier for me. I really love Getting Rid of Bradley by Jennifer Crusie because it's just this short category length. It's very snappy. The dialogue is great, and like they're both just exasperated with each other the entire time, but I love it. And there's like a lot of action in it, and it's just like it's just go 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 from like the second you start, and not a scene is wasted. And it's really funny. So that would definitely be in my starter pack. I think Brown Sugar would be in there because it's really one of the best friends to lovers movies I've ever seen. And I saw it the first time I saw it, I was in New York when I saw it. So like, it just made it feel even more special to me. But it does friends to lovers really well. And then like the fact that they set it amongst such a culturally specific scene with music and hip hop, and I really love that. And then it has the iconic scene with Taye Diggs where he busts in on his soon-to-be ex-wife's date, and he's drunk and a fool, and it's hilarious. That's 2. What else would I put in there? I mean, no, I would not put that movie in there. That would be horrible.
All right, you got to tell her. You can't just leave us hanging like that.
Well, I was about to say Diamond Girl. It's like, no, that's just weird. No. I really like My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I think that's a really nice way of looking at a rom-com where these two people don't break up. They just move toward each other and they become a family. And I really love that. I like The Truth About Cats and Dogs because that has a really great friendship in it, as well as some just really great chemistry.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah. And the fact that, it ruins their friendship, but it doesn't completely ruin it. And like, really, the grand gesture is her. There's a friendship grand gesture in there, which I really liked. And then Catch and Release.
Okay.
Just because it's a rom-com about grief, and I like that she goes to him and he's like basically waiting for her.
Love it. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, Allie, have you been writing anything you can tell us about?
Oh God, no, just fanfic.
That's writing. That's writing. Don't sell it short. Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm always working on something. I literally have a story I've been working on for, oh God, close to 20 years now. So like, I'm always working on something, but like mostly just, been writing some newsletters that I'm going to be putting out soon. So that's the extent of my writing right now.
Well, are we going to be getting new episodes of Romance Ever After?
Yes, you will. It just all hinges on my ability to sit down at my computer and edit episodes.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
Listeners don't even realize, like, you may get like an hour episode from a podcaster. It maybe took 2 or 3 to get it edited. Like, we have to muster up the energy.
Yeah, in my day job, I actually do a lot of AV editing. So like now it's like, oh, so in my free time, I'm going to be doing what I've been doing all day.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I could be reading. So yeah, but yeah, there will be new episodes.
Okay.
Well, let's get into some round outs. What's one hill you will wholeheartedly die on?
So as ridiculous as I say I am about the definition of rom-coms, I will die on the hill that Morning Glory is a rom-com.
Okay.
That's
Tell
where I
us
draw
why.
my line.
Elaborate.
Because if I'm being extremely honest, it's really a workplace comedy. However, the beats that it follows between her relationship with Harrison Ford's character, and down to the fact that she does a rom-com run at the end while he's doing his grand gesture to her, and it follows every beat. And then there's Patrick Wilson in there being half naked some of the time.
Okay. Okay. Who was your teenage celebrity crush?
Oh God, who wasn't? Teenage. If we're gonna be specific, teenage. I definitely had a huge thing for James McAvoy.
Okay.
That because he came out in the Children of Dune miniseries on Sci-Fi. Because again, huge dork. And he was absolutely dreamy. Heath Ledger. Oh, I had such a thing for Heath Ledger. Yeah, I was at the first showing of 10 Things I Hate About You on the first day. I had been watching the trailer religiously for like months. And this was back when you had to wait for QuickTime to load.
Yeah.
In order to watch a video.
Children today will never understand.
Buffering. There is no such thing as buffering. There is waiting an hour on that 56K connection to download a little 2-minute clip. So yeah, no, I had a huge thing for Heath Ledger. Yeah, I think those were like probably my 2 biggest teenage celebrity crushes.
I love it. 3 songs on the mixtape to Your Life and what they say about you.
Oh fuck. Sorry.
Nope, you're fine.
Oh God. Ooh, music. I love music. I love music too much. So one song would probably be on there. It has no lyrics. Salvador de Samba. It's from a McCoy Tyner album. And it's just like kind of like a Latin jazz piece. I absolutely adore that song. And it's like just 10 minutes of like strings and cymbals. And I love that song so much. And so it just reminds me so much of just like being in town on a Sunday, walking around. And that's just kind of like how I feel when I'm happy. Something I Want by Grace Potter. I just really like that song. It's like really upbeat. It's all about getting what you want. And that's pretty much how I feel about my days. And then Sex on Fire by Kings of Leon. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Love it. Okay. Okay. So if today you finish the pages on a memoir documenting your life at the moment, what would the title be?
Advice from a hypocrite.
Take this with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Think it's perfect.
Yes. All right. Well, lastly, where can everyone keep up with you online?
So I'm on Twitter as Allie is Writing, and Instagram, and I have a website, allieparker.com, where you can basically find everything, and you can sign up for my newsletter and be updated on when I have podcast episodes. Yeah, and I think even my Substack is Allie is Writing too. So like, I try and keep it simple, guys. And you can also follow the podcast directly at Rom Ever After on both Twitter and on Instagram as well.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today and chatting rom-coms. You'll have to come back. I mean, if there's a movie, you're like, guys, we need to watch this and talk. Like, hit us up.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. It's like my favorite thing ever. I love doing watch parties. Oh, for sure.